for being here, all of you, and special thanks to Mrs. Purple for inviting me to take part in this presentation. So our today's topic will be about writing and how we can develop our students' writing skills within an online learning environment. So I'd like to give you a brief overview of what I'm going to present today. Well, first of all, we're going to get to know writing better, and especially why we should focus on writing and why we shouldn't neglect writing, and some approaches relevant to writing. And of course, practical solutions will be given during the second part in order to learn how to adapt the writing section by making reference to each level separately. So before I begin, I'd like to make reference to this quote, which I found on the internet, and it actually reflects on what writing is. Since writing is the best way to talk without being interrupted, and you will find out later on why you can do that with writing. So, first of all, let's get to know writing better. Why we should focus on writing? Well, according to Harmer, the ability to write has to be consciously learned. That means that we cannot expect from our students to learn how to write and to produce longer pieces of writing without having exposed them to writing before. A study conducted by Professor Martin Lotte in 2014 revealed that different parts of the brain are also activated when we write. The first one is the occipital lobe, which is the visual processing center, let's say, and it helps visualizing our ideas, and it also helps interpreting info from their eyes and turning them into ideas. The second part is the hippocampus, which plays a major role in learning and memory. And of course, the frontal lobe, which controls our cognitive skills, like problem-solving skills, critical thinking, and of course, our language. Except for our brain, we also use our hands and fingers, of course, to write or type something. And we use our experience, and perhaps we base on ideas on what we have to write, on what we have experienced before. It is often believed that writing is a personal skill. However, I do believe that writing can be shared. This is one part that of what I have just said on how you can share your ideas and express yourself through writing and communicate basically with other people through writing. Of course, creativity flourishes, and unlike other skills, writing allows us time to think before we write something. And the most intriguing part for me about writing is that you can experiment on the language. That means that you can practically use language in any possible way. So these are the three most well-known approaches of teaching writing. The first one is the process approach, which is writing as a process. That means that you have to follow a certain process. The first step is the pre-writing, in which you brainstorm your ideas and you brainstorm what you are going to write afterwards. Then you write what you want to write, then you revise and perhaps edit, and then start over again until you have reached the expected outcome. The second one is a project approach, which is commonly used by course books, and in which students are given a model and a useful language table, and students have to write based on the above and produce a similar essay or letter or whatever you ask your students to do. And the last one is the genre approach, which focuses on the purpose, why am I writing, on the reader, who is going on the audience, excuse me, who is going to read what I have just written, and under what circumstances someone is going to read what I have written, and of course the social function that each writing serves. As you might have noticed, writing is quite complicated as we have to take different parameters into account. And of course, on the other hand, the nature of online teaching doesn't help much because we have to communicate through a camera. We always have to make sure that we can be heard or we can be seen. And this makes things difficult for writing. However, we can also adapt, and this is the best thing that we can do now. So what can we do in order to create a writing friendly environment? So let's start with the pre-A1 and A1 level. We're talking about juniors and a senior. So according to CFR, which is the Common European Framework of References, and for those who are not aware of what this is, it's the international standard for describing languages. So it's a must. We should all read it at some point. So according to CFR, students at that level can pass on personal details, can describe in very simple language by using simple isolated phrases. They can, of course, write about themselves, about their family, their houses perhaps, and imaginary people or things like my toy, my favorite robot, etc. On the other hand, course books, of course, follow the CFR. However, they ask our students to create a project, and the students before that have to respond to model text or watching short videos, and after they have to create a similar project, of course, based on familiar and age-appropriate topics. So far, so good. It's okay. We can create projects, but what can we do apart from that? Students at that level need to show something to their parents, to their classmates, to their teachers, to everyone. So instead of just asking them to write about their favorite toy, a description perhaps of their bedroom, then ask them to present in class. Or you can you can also give them and write birthday messages. This is a good exercise in order to feel that they belong inside a group. And of course, in breakout rooms, you can ask your students to compare and write about their houses and bedrooms. For example, you have two students who the first one starts saying, I have got a blue pen. The other one says, I haven't got a blue pen, and they write it down. I have got a red pen. Okay. And of course, the second way to adapt is to create illustrations. Always connect visuals with writing. Not only because you create a project, but you can also make illustrations after listening to a song found in the course books, of course, reading a dialogue or watching a video. You can ask your students to copy a phrase, and I'm not talking about it in a traditional way, copying. They just copy a catchphrase and then they provide this illustration. You can, of course, use stories. Stories is the best way to do that. I'm using Google Jamboard as an online whiteboard, and students in turns can write one simple sentence, then the next student continues with another sentence. It doesn't have to make sense, the stories that will appear, as long as they write. Or you can use a simple story like the old grey lady or the brown bear. You can find them online, and the students have to draw perhaps their favorite scene afterwards, and then write about their favorite hero. And of course, fill in speech bubbles. When we're talking about writing at this level, we're not talking about writing full sentences, perhaps writing larger descriptions. Even a simple yes or no, yes I do, no I don't, is writing. So I strongly recommend you use the chat box in order to write something more than a yes or no. And my favorite one is a guess what exercise, in which students first are asked to write a description of a thing, of their house, whatever you wish. And you ask one of your students or yourself to read all of the descriptions, and then the other students can guess what it is if we're talking about a description of an object, or whose it is if we're talking about a description, if we have to focus on whose it is. So this is a sample of what my students have created. And let's move on to A2 level. At A2 level, they can still write very simple personal letters and emails, more structured text, short notes and messages. They can write about everyday aspects. However, they can use the past simple or past continuous in order to narrate a story or describe past activities. And perhaps they are going to use present perfect if they're going to describe a personal experience. They can create diary entries based on anything. Okay, they can write a description. And of course, they can give their opinion about topics of personal interest. Course books at that point do have a separate writing section. However, some other course books do not have. They follow the product approach. Images and warm-up questions appeared. Perhaps some questions also appear regarding the audience and the purpose. Linguistic support is also provided, and course books focus on informal emails, stories, and lots of descriptions. So, what can we do? Instead of asking them just to create a story, they can create comics. They can create poems, if they're keen on poetry, of course. And instead of doing this exercise, find someone which is an excellent speaking exercise, they can create questionnaires. They can use Google Forms, and they can create questions. Let's say that you're dealing with a topic about food, healthy eating, perhaps. You can ask your students to create a questionnaire. Do you like vegetables? Do you like sweets? And then after receiving the results, they can create their own paragraphs. And also include the funny aspect during your teaching. What I mean is that instead of writing for 100th time, what's your favorite food? Write an email to your friend describing your favorite food and perhaps give the reasons why. You can change that. You can give them a funny topic. For example, how to make the most disgusting sandwich in the world, or how not to make a paper airplane. And students are forced to search and then write or create a video. A video is a kind of writing according to CFR, and if you take a look at it, you can find under the written production that our students, instead of writing, they can also create a video, and it's okay. And of course, instead of asking them to write a postcard to their parents, and I'm just wondering who writes postcards nowadays, why not changing the topic and let your students texting their mom, or email their mom in order to complaining because they couldn't find their favorite t-shirt. Of course, skit and role playing are equally important. Always give your students a topic and a task in order to make sure that they are on the right track. So let's say that we have a picture showing two people fighting outside the supermarket. So what you can do is first you group your students, of course, and first they look at the picture and write a dialogue from the perspective of the two people that are actually fighting. The other one writes from the perspective of two strangers going to the supermarket and came across this accident. Perhaps instead of writing a dialogue, they can write a text message, a diary entry, or an email to their friend narrating what has happened to them. And although I do love speaking, this exercise is funny and quite challenging at the same time, because after giving your students a topic, you ask them that they mustn't speak, and instead they're trying to communicating with other people by showing what they have to say to the camera, or they have to type it into the chat box. It's quite challenging because after 5 minutes they come up to you and say, I want to speak. I can't. I just want to speak. So, but it's a really good exercise to practice. And this is again a sample of what my students have created. And I'm going to talk about this project shortly. So let's go to the B1 and B2 level. These are the most challenging levels for us because, for better or worse, we realize that our students need to write about more abstract topics. They need to produce straightforward connected texts. They need to write clear and detailed texts by summarizing, synthesizing, and evaluating information. They can also write a review. Everything that we ask them to write has to follow certain conventions of the genre. Course books have a separate section, writing skills, whatever they call it, or separate writing books. A few comments are made on the register, purpose, and audience. Again, they follow the project approach. A plan is also evident. Students are suddenly asked to write informal, semi-formal, and formal emails. It is totally exam-oriented, and topics are sometimes beyond the students' interest or level of understanding. Well, this is a huge question mark for me because I feel that our students understand what we have to do, what they have, to do. However, they're not interested in writing. And now they're going to tell me, okay, yes, you're right, perhaps you're right, but what if they came across during the exams a topic that they're not interested in writing? What are they going to do? So problem number one, they don't have ideas. And problem number two, we have to make writing interesting, okay, in order to have ideas. So you can choose any topic you like. You can take any topic you wish from your course books, from the writing books, from the practice test books, or you can go to oxplore.org to choose a big question or a dilemma. I've recently done, could we live without loss? This was a question taken from there, and I have created a writing lesson from this. So first of all, take a topic. After you decide the topic, create mind maps or simple maps. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So mind maps serve the purpose. Actually, mind maps is the perfect way to start your writing, because we should always ask who am I writing to? What am I going to write? My opinion? What's my opinion? Why should I say that? Or how can I develop? Or how can I say more about this topic? And then students search, because they always come to you and say, well, I don't know what to write. I don't know. So what you can do in order to generate ideas, you can literally do anything. You can watch videos, There are super videos on TED Talks or educational videos on YouTube. You can use images related to the topic. You can use stories, articles, research perhaps, and of course arts and paintings. I would like to focus on this National Portrait Gallery project, and I had the chance to participate in this project thanks to Dr. Maroulis. And if you click on this link, you will find out lots of pictures taken during the first lockdown in the UK. So after discussing what the pictures are, I asked my students to imagine that they are members of the gallery staff and they have to choose 3 new paintings to be included in a new exhibition that they are going to create. So students write an essay first, justifying their own ideas, and after that, they write a letter or an email to the mayor or an email to the manager in order to describe and justify their own ideas. So, this is how I generate ideas, by practically let them search anything. Regarding the second problem, how they can develop their ideas, you can always use the convince me exercise. So what they are going to do is, after writing the essay on a specific topic, they have to read it in front of an audience, their classmates. And the aim is to persuade them. If their classmates haven't been convinced, that means that their argumentation was weak. And that makes our students actually reflect on their essays and start thinking, what should I do in order to make my argumentation stronger? Rather than typically say, as a teacher, well, you should have developed your ideas more, and your students are looking at us like this, and they could not understand. So this exercise serves this purpose. Okay, so this is practically how I'm dealing with writing at that level. Topic, choose a topic, create mind maps. If your students run out of ideas, let them search and discuss. And of course, then write. This is what I'm talking about, creating mind maps. This is a mind map which was created on Canvas a few weeks ago. And this is actually my plan, let's say, that I am using with my students. I know that it's detailed, but it goes from the fast thinking skills to slow thinking skills. First, students brainstorm ideas, and reflect on their own experiences. And secondly, they search and they complete with some more useful ideas. Okay, so the same things apply to C1 and C2 level. The idea is the same. However, we have to take into account that at this level, students need to deal with more complicated texts and with more complex structure and language. Students at that level can produce clear, smoothly flowing, complex texts in a logical structure. They can summarize information from different sources. And the key word for me is that they should take multiple perspectives into account and reconstruct their argumentation. And of course, they can exploit idiom and humor appropriately. This is the creative part of writing at that level. So again, you choose a topic, any kind of topic, okay? Or you can ask your students to do a research on a specific topic. This is what reconstructed argumentation means. This is what taking into account different perspectives and different people's opinions mean. So, and this is certainly a life skill. This is something that they will definitely going to use later on their lives. Okay, so for me, um, I suggested we should start teaching how to do a proper research. And of course, as CFR tells us to do, we need to create computer literate students. So the first thing that they can do is to do their own research, or you can rely on an already made research. They can use quotes. Quotes are the first step to being super creative. Instead of just writing, they can post it on an article on Facebook, on Instagram, on their blogs. And the most interesting part is that other students can comment on this, so it enables us to communicate and exchange ideas. And of course, use articles. Because we're talking about a proficient level of language, we have to make sure that our students come across with different genres and different personal styles of writing. You can also use a controversial article, and after reading and discuss with it, the students can write a formal essay or a letter to the editor or a letter to the author. So these are some useful websites that I am using when I ask my students to write something. And please bear in mind that we're not talking about purely writing lessons, because language is not only speaking, writing, listening, and reading. You can always incorporate lots of different skills into writing. And as you might have seen, all the exercises that I'm suggesting are including speaking, reading, listening, and writing at the same time. So, writing is a complex process, and we have to teach, and it is imperative that we teach our students how to write. And of course, my first tip and my first advice is that we should build gradually the writing habit. Do not expect from your students to reach B2 or B1 level to start reminding yourselves that I have to teach writing as well. Do that from day one, not from day 365. You can use anything, practically anything, from a simple poster, a simple card. You can use realia, videos, images, articles, and blogs to stimulate, engage your students, and of course generate ideas. Always brainstorm, and I'm talking about from B1 level onwards. What? Always consider the purpose and the audience. Okay, let your students observe each other, making notes. Talk and discuss before they actually read. This is the process of creating ideas, creating new ideas. This is the process of creating new experiences that writing needs in order to be successful, a successful writer. And of course, practice makes perfect. Our brain loves habit, loves doing things over and over again, because in this way, it creates something new. And also teach your students how to check and proofread and edit what they have written. Again, a huge life skill. You can use any topic you may wish. You can use the topics found in your course books, anywhere, but always adapt to learners' needs or interest. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And this is a process of learning how to do this. And of course, keep it simple, meaningful, and real to them. It took me 24 years to realize that writing is is a kind of expression, is something that you can use to express yourself and to communicate with other people. Okay, so let your students find that out from day one. So, this is some of the books that I have read. If you need a more detailed bibliography, please do let me know. And thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation. You can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, perhaps in another webinar. And I'd love to hear from you. And this is it.